Okay, today is Monday, October 5th, 2020. Temperature is about 60 degrees right now. It's in the afternoon. Getting kind of colder. Nights, especially, are starting to get down to the 40s, so getting pretty cold. Got to use a couple more blankets. And Merriam-Webster's word of the day today is appreciable, meaning capable of being analyzed or measured. Pretty good word. Today I want to talk about this book. Let's see. Kim Jiyoung, born 1982. If you can see that there. It's kind of reversed. Pretty good book. Pretty short, only I think around 130 pages. And it's kind of been praised as kind of like a feminist novel. Definitely is feminist, or they say on the blurb, it sparked a feminist movement in South Korea. It's a pretty good book. Things I liked about it: writing style. The author is Nam-Joo. The author has a very economical way of writing. She does not waste words at all. But I think that actually heightens to emphasize the struggles of the main character. It makes everything seem more real, and I think it makes things more empathetic. It's a very empathetic novel, I find. The novel is about the main character, Kim Jiyoung, born 1982, and she has a breakdown. She starts losing herself and becoming different women that she knows. It starts off with on a cold morning, she's talking to her husband and she's talking like her mom, and he thinks that she's kidding around, but in her mind she's actually her mother. And the story is kind of going into why did she break down, and it goes over her whole life story. And that's where the feminist part comes in, because we go through. There's a lot of glare on my glasses. Let me take these off. We go through Kim Jong's life from like childhood to adulthood, from college to working her first job to marriage to childbirth, etc. And we just see how things are in South Korea. It's laid out matter of factly, and it's just that it's a kind of a misogynistic society where a lot of emphasis is placed upon gender roles, and how men succeed way easier than women do. Like, for example, even in like small ways. Like, for example, when she's in school, like in elementary school and such, that she has large classes of like 50 kids, but by the number arrangement, all the guys get the numbers 1 through 25, and all the girls come second. Just even small stuff like that, and outside of bigger stuff, like she applies for a job she gets a job after college, her first real job. She leaves it afterwards, but she finds out that she's only making like a pittance of what their male colleagues do. Stuff like that. So, it's not really that it's a cry for action, like demanding action novel, but it's just kind of like, I can definitely see how you read it, and then you're like, it doesn't just make you go. I think for those reading it in South Korea, but also I think anywhere, if you're a woman, it doesn't matter if you're in Korea or in America or anywhere, because I think a lot of it is universal, what she writes in the book. It comes back to empathy. You empathize with the character a lot, and that's where the call for action is, because you just think it shouldn't be that way. You know what I mean? because like sometimes it's hard for, I know it's like for me as a man, it's hard for me to understand women's viewpoints sometimes. That it's like impossible, right? Well, I mean impossible. Like I can never understand a woman, but it's just like the day to day stuff is the nuances of life as between a man and a woman. It's almost like the details are too fine to really get into, to really understand in your heart. You know what I mean? But this book, I think, really does a good job of that, where anybody understands the main character, Kim Jiyoung. She understands her struggles in her life, and there's so many points in this book where Kim Jiyoung is faced with like a challenge, like from the male centric Korean society, and she just wants to scream or yell back or something, but she just can't. I think that's where the call to action comes from. So I think everybody should read this book. It's really good. I give it like a 4 out of 5. Well, yeah, I give it a 4 out of 5. A couple other things I forgot real quick. There's a lot of footnotes in this novel coming from actual research studies. It's not like footnotes like from David Foster Wallace, where you have a whole amusing anecdote or a whole page footnote that's just part of the story that you read along with. No, these are footnotes relating to statistics like about the percentage of male class representatives versus female class representatives in school versus the amount of women in the workplace, what they're making and such. And the second thing I find is that this novel is that's where I get into where it's not really a call to action, but it kind of is, because if it's more of a novel, I think it would definitely delve more deeply into the psychosis. Oh, she's losing herself, etc., etc. Oh, she's becoming different people. And if you made this like into like a movie or a TV show, the whole thing would be about like, oh, is there a mystery in there? She's becoming all these different people. Is what's happening? What kind of problems is that causing? And actually, more of the problems comes from it being actually the main hook of the book is that premise, is that she's losing herself and her mind is becoming other people. But that's just to draw you into her life story, into how things are difficult for her as a woman growing up in South Korea. And that's where it's more feminist, because if it was more novelistic, it would definitely delve more deeply into the psychosis part rather than the feminist part. It's really short, only 130 pages, like I said. You can knock this book out in a couple days, and I think anybody can read it and get out of it, because it's not about Korean society versus American society, or it being man versus woman. It's really an empathetic book, because you go through the injustices that the main character faces with her, Kim Jiyoung, like all stuff like getting harassed on the bus, to getting called a mom cockroach or a mom roach by businessmen when she goes out to get a coffee with her baby daughter. Like you feel her pain and her suffering with her, and a lot of it, it's not like she's rallying against it so much as like she's just upset, you know. It's not like she's leading a crusade against the male society, but just the things that happen to her, it's too hard, it's too much for her to just sit down and take it in her heart. She's gotta vent to it for somebody, even though a lot of times she just has to accept it. In her heart, she's just like, why is this? I'm just as good as anybody else. I'm just as smart. I'm just as hardworking. I'm just as entitled to the same lifestyle that anybody else should have. So why am I being passed over from my male colleagues or for my younger brother or for stuff like that? All right, that's all I got for you. I'll catch you guys next time.